Hey, so I'm here to answer some questions. Um, what's your go-to way of explaining your visual impairment? So I always say that if a fully sighted person sees 100%, I see 8 to 10% in my right eye and 2 to 3% in my left eye. This is still obviously quite hard to explain and understand. And I find it a really hard question when people are like, how much can you see? Because it is really hard to explain. I also have full field, like I can see my whole field, but my central slightly blurrier, but it's not like a massive difference. But it is something that I kind of heads up to people, because particularly if they're people that are going to experience me having to see things that are harder for me to see, because I tend to look up, to look forward and slightly to the right. So when they're looking at me, like when they say look over there, they'll be like, you're not looking where I'm telling you to look, and I'm like, I am, and they're like, no, you're not. So I do find that helps explaining that, because otherwise they think that you're just not listening to them. Have you always explained it like this? Ever since I can remember, I have. Yeah, no, like ever since I remember maybe like when I was in first school, I didn't really understand the term visual impairment, didn't really know the term, so I used to call myself half blind, but I don't use that anymore. And I didn't really understand that it was more than half of my vision missing. But once I learned visual impairment, I was then using that term. Have you gained confidence in doing this? What has helped you gain this confidence? Definitely gained confidence in it. Like I say, when I was at school, I'd say half blind, and even then, like, I've really struggled. As I've kind of got older, it's helped me gain the confidence. And I think having most people in my family with a visual impairment has helped my confidence. I also think that something that I find useful when talking about how much vision I have is explaining to the person trying to understand my vision that I also have no idea what fully sighted looks like, because I've never had it. To me, fully sightedness is my vision because I was born with it. So kind of them explaining that kind of what fully sightedness is kind of bringing them into the conversation and kind of comparing the two, and that sometimes does help them understand a bit more as well, and like I say, makes it a two-way conversation rather than just like a one-way about me, because I don't like that. How do you go about asking people for help? I mean, I used to be really scared to ask people for help, didn't do it very often, and I think growing up in a family of family members with visual impairments, both my parents are visually impaired, so there's been times when I've had to ask for help, but I kind of grew into this thing of kind of, if I need help, you just kind of try and get on with it and you do the best you can, necessarily not asking for help, but then it's also pushed me into that when I need help, I ask for help. How do people usually respond to you? It's a mixture really. Like, some people are really positive, and like the other day I asked someone to help me cross the main road in my house, and they were like, I was literally about to just ask you, and I was like, ah. But yeah, there's some people who have a positive response. I've never had a negative necessarily. The only negative I've had is someone who asked the only negative response I've had is when I've asked people for help and they've literally just plain blank ignored me. Sometimes they don't hear you because they've got headphones in, but some people just plain blank ignore, which is fine. I just go and ask someone else because there's usually quite a few people about. I think the only other kind of weird experience I had was when I was crossing a road and was about to ask someone for help, but they then asked me for help. And I had my cane and everything, but they asked me for help, and they said it's because they were hearing impaired, and asked and was like going on about how difficult it must be to cross the road when you're blind, and I didn't really know how to respond then. I just kind of smiled and agreed, but I didn't really know what to say. So what are people's reactions? Kind of the same as what I've been saying. Quite positive, well, very positive, and I find people are very willing to help out, and it's better to ask for help than not ask for help. And the worst thing they can say is no. Well, like I say, just completely blank you, but it's not the end of the world if they do. Do you have any tips for introducing yourself to new people? I think definitely like explain that you're visually impaired. Never kind of hide it, because if you need help or if anything happens, then you can literally explain, well, this is why it happened, like, or you know that I'm visually impaired, like, this is why. But I find, yeah, like most people are accepting, and I don't really know what else. I don't really know what other tips. Hope that's okay. If you need any more, let me know.